Yeah, the proliferation of guns in our communities has real ramifications. Legislation being passed at the Tennessee State House that makes it easier to access a gun has real ramifications. And so I say the names of Larry Thorne and Dr. Yvonne Nelson, who were murdered due to gun violence. And it's really important that we understand this moment as a catalyst about what happened in Covenant. But there being laws that have led to this happening. And there's also been inaction.
So let's talk about the expulsion. Representative Johnson, by one vote, you were still a sitting member of the Tennessee State Legislature. Why do you believe you were not expelled on Thursday?
Because the color of my skin.
So then would you say that the Republican members of the Tennessee State Legislature are racist?
Well, I would say that I was sitting in Criminal Justice Committee discussing a bill where we were, they would like to add the firing squad and the electric chair to the methods for capital punishment, and one of the members said, I think we need to add hanging by a tree. So he called for a hate crime. This was just a few weeks ago. And we hear comments like that. For the time I've been up there, I have heard comments like that on multiple occasions. And we got a meh kind of apology, really. But, I mean, he sat in a committee and called for a hate crime. He's still in that committee. We were stripped of our committees.
I will say, as I was preparing to come down to Nashville today, I got messages from folks that said, well, I hope that Representative Jones and Representative Pearce continue to keep their cool, continue to stay calm. And I don't know about you, but I felt unsettled by that.
Yeah.
Why did it unsettle you?
Because what happened on yesterday was an act of violence. It was a public lynching. It was an attempt to humiliate, an attempt to beat down, and to really make an example out of us. What was outrageous was the things we heard during that fake trial, in which essentially they were saying to Representative Pearson and I that we are uppity Negroes. They might as well call us boy. They did not treat us like colleagues. They did not treat us like equals, and they never have.
Why do you think it was this particular moment that moved this body to take these such extreme measures? Why was this moment different?
An institution is very difficult to change. And even in a moment of persecution, it will do what it is intended to do. And an institution that has its pillars built by white supremacy and by patriarchy will still produce a similar result, even in the persecution of the minority. The two youngest black lawmakers, the one of only 2 Democratic women in the State House. And so in this moment in time when we were all up for expulsion, race, which we're told not to talk about.
We were told that race doesn't matter.
Race doesn't matter if you just act like us. Race doesn't matter if you just do what we tell you to do, then you'll be okay. And so that race again became the defining factor between the separation and what happened to Representative Jones and I and Representative Johnson.
I just have to say, we're talking about the patterns of an institution. We are talking about what is embedded at the heart of an institution. There were many members that came before you that sat in the seats that you all sat in. I think that there's some intergenerational friction going on. Is that accurate?
Yes. And Representative Jones is going to say more. I'll say this about some of the ancestors. Dr. Cooper, who served District 86 for 26 years, Speaker Pro Tem Lois Deeberry. There have been some extraordinary folks who have resisted in the ways that they thought best at that moment in time, who have allowed us the opportunity to be here. The truth is, we cannot continue to operate in a very old way of thinking in a very new moment in Tennessee and American history. It's very similar to what we tell people who are Republicans who talk about the immutability of the Second Amendment, that we do not live in 1776 where we need a militia. You have to have a reality check on what these rules, what these laws mean in this present moment. And to our colleagues in the State House, who do not live in the era of the 1950s or 1960s or 1900s. We have to live in this moment. We have to operate in this moment and act in this moment.
What would you like the current members of the Democratic caucus in the State House to do?
We have to be honest about the culture on Capitol Hill. That it is much more comfortable to conform. It's so interesting to me. They said you were disruptive in the well that day.
Who was the they?
This is what the charges were, the resolution. And the reality is, when we first walked in those doors, that was the disruption. The movements, the communities, the people we represent, that embodiment, that was a disruption to a body that is so defined by white supremacy, patriarchy, and plantation capitalism. That was the disruption.
Well, there are 40 members on the National City Council as we speak, as we have this conversation. At least 24 of them have gone on the record saying they're going to support you and vote in support of sending you back to the State House. And they're going to vote on Monday. Are you confident that you will be back in the state legislature next week?
I appreciate that act of solidarity from our local leaders, and so I think the question is going to be with Cameron Sexton. He sent lawyers to tell us in the Capitol that we can't come back until the next General Assembly, which is in 2025.
I want to make sure I get this right. So the Speaker of the Tennessee State House,
his attorneys,
they reached out to you all via your.
They stated that at the end of the resolution it says that you're expelled from the 113th General Assembly, and so the ethics attorney stated that you won't be able to return. But then we talked to constitutional attorneys, and so it seems like that can uphold. Nothing about this was constitutional, number one, but now they're going to say again, we're going to go around and make up our own rules as they're so used to doing and say that we may try and refuse to seat you.
Representative Pearson, you represent Memphis.
Yes.
And in Memphis is not the Memphis City Council, it is the Shelby County Commissioners, who would have to vote to send you back to the State House. Now, NBC News has not confirmed this, but I told you I was in the Nashville streets today. And I heard chatter amongst members of the state legislature, amongst folks locally here, people whom I know in Memphis, who said that there's a concern that if the Shelby County Commissioners do move in support of you, that Memphis's $350 million ask that is currently before the state legislature to fund a project in the state, I believe it's Convention Center?
Stadium.
It's a stadium, yes. That they are concerned that ask would be pulled, that it would not be met. Have you heard that?
I definitely heard that rumor. I heard there's some lobbying by people in positions of power to make that happen. I am not sure if it's 100% true. No one has come and told me what they're about to do. The question for our county commissioners is, what price can we be bought for? And I don't think there's a price for our democracy. I don't think there's a price for our citizens who want to make sure their voices are heard on an issue as important as gun violence. Right? I really believe that there will be members of the county commission, and the majority of them, 7 of them, who would vote to ensure District 86 continues to have representation. But the threat that is coming from some folks, right, to take away funding. This again deals with the way that the state government operates, because the budget's passed by the state legislature, and to be able to control a young black representative, right, it is to wield money, right, as a stick against a majority black county for making sure that they have someone who's representing the voice and the will of the people.
We know that we have a retaliatory administration.
Yeah.
We are seeing legislation against our major cities.
Yeah.
And it's constant. And it's kind of remarkable. It's almost like the mob. I mean, literally, they came into my office, HR came into my office Wednesday, I guess it was, the day before our expulsion hearings. And it was the woman, the head of HR, and our ethics lawyer. And the head of HR said, well, we just wanted to come and have a talk with you. I wanted you to know that if you are expelled, you will lose your health insurance. And then the ethics lawyer says to me, well, you remember so-and-so, he was potentially up for expulsion. And he decided to resign, and that way, if you resign, you don't lose your health insurance.
Did you feel intimidated in that moment?
I didn't feel intimidated, but I knew what they were doing.
Really fortunate that a number of attorneys, firms, organizations have reached out if there are ways that we can or should pursue legal remedies to our expulsions. And we're hopeful that the will of the people continues to go forward with potential reappointments and with potential elections, special elections coming forward as well.
But I just have to press on this issue because it would seem to me that there is a legal challenge here. And at the end of the day, is there not a role for the Department of Justice to play?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yes, I mean, that is something we can ask for, and I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
this whole process has been, a farce of our due process. It's been a farce of our constitutional, system of government. And so, I mean, everything about this, I mean, even the trial that they had, the verdict was decided before we even started talking, because the jury, the quote unquote, our colleagues, were announcing in the media saying that we, creating this myth of insurrection, creating this myth that we were violent. And so there's no due process in this. There's nothing about this that it was followed. They talk about, we were out of order. This whole process of expulsion was out of order. This whole process of expulsion was an affront to any decorum or any decency or any, system of balance that we're supposed to have in our government. And it was one man's decision. Speaker Cameron Sexton, who went on the news after that first protest, lied on these children and mothers, and then had to go from there to cover up his tracks and justify him calling a mourning community, children who came to the Capitol, mothers and grandparents and community members, clergy, calling them insurrectionists.
I know we have to go shortly, but what did you ask the president or the vice president for today?
I think one of the main things is support in this movement. We knew and we said from the start, we're not going to quit fighting. And that's the reality. We cannot quit fighting. And we asked the president and the vice president for their support in this effort here in Tennessee and the South, right? Where too many people too easily give up on what is possible here.
What does support look like?
I think one action of solidarity that we saw that was so important was that the Vice President of the United States cleared her schedule to make an emergency stop in Tennessee.
Yes.
Because a crime happened yesterday. Because we're in a state of emergency in Tennessee with this undoing of the will of voters. I think that was an important action of solidarity, and we know that it's not going to end there, because so often people look over states like Tennessee, and for so long we felt no longer what the nation has seen, what the world has seen. It's just another day in the Tennessee General Assembly.
Lastly, you talked about Monday. What is happening this upcoming week, and do y'all feel safe?
Personally, I know I had several phone conversations about getting security, and that's something we are going to move forward with. It is just in this moment where you have, it's no longer extremism, because this is just the way they operate. Monday, while I might not be in the House, on the House floor, I will definitely be in the people's house, chanting, singing, speaking, in order that we can get just legislation passed on this.
I hope the nation sees the moral insanity that a week after a mass shooting terrorized Nashville, I used to represent a part of Nashville, the legislature's response to that grief is not to pass common sense gun laws, but it's to expel their colleagues for calling for action. We were calling for an assault weapons ban. They responded by assaulting democracy. The nation needs to see what's going on in Tennessee.
The nation needs to see what is going on in Tennessee. Representative Johnson, Representative Pearce, Representative Jones, I thank you all for your time and just your voice.